Bonjour à toutes et tous, vous écoutez First Print, votre podcast comics préféré pour une nouvelle émission du format Super Friends. C'est le podcast qui va à la rencontre des personnes qui font vivre la pop culture et la culture comics par leur travail. On est dans le dernier rush des interviews du FIBD 2024. Alors on enregistre, c'est le dernier jour du FIBD sur place. On a encore d'autres interviews de prévues, mais elles arriveront après, elles seront enregistrées en fait à Paris. Mais donc pour ce podcast, on a vraiment le grand plaisir d'accueillir Will McPhail, qui est l'auteur de l'album Autour de Au-Dedans, dont on vous a déjà parlé récemment, qui est sorti aux éditions 404 Comics. Une interview qui vous sera proposée en anglais, évidemment. Donc avis aux amateurs d'accent écossais, peut-être que ça va vous plaire. Et après le générique, donc, je vous laisse en compagnie de Will. So I was saying that we were going to speak with Will McPhail, and I guess that's you.
Yeah, I think so.
So hello, Will. How are you?
I'm very good. Yeah, I say I think so because I haven't slept a lot in the last 3 days, so I've sort of lost all trace of identity. It's all dissolved away, and now I'm just a guy who draws in people's books.
Yeah, but that's like I was trying to say something funny, but it didn't come in because we are both tired. Actually, it's like the danger of doing an interview on a Sunday morning in Angoulême.
That's true.
It's quite dangerous. But for the people who might not know who you are, could you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, Will McPhail. I am a cartoonist who lives in Edinburgh in Scotland. So I split my time between there and New York because I'm a New Yorker cartoonist. So usually my day-to-day work would be drawing these silly, stupid little cartoons about sex and pigeons, mostly. Not together, but like separate things.
Let's talk about sex with pigeons, please.
See, this is the danger of doing it on Sunday morning. But you're getting me at my most vulnerable. I'm very open. And the first big piece is Autour de Au-Dedans, which is my graphic novel, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit how you came to drawing? Was it something that always attracted you when you were a child, or did it come later?
No, the truth is I can't remember because I've just always done it. I can't remember a time when I didn't have a pencil in my hand at some point.
Well, actually, right now you don't have a pencil in your hand. So there are some times when you don't have a pencil in your hand.
You can't see my feet. I have 3 pencils between my toes as we speak, crafting a masterpiece on the table.
It's so weird.
It's going to win the prize at Anglais next year.
I hope so.
The toe graphic novel. Always done it. I haven't always done it academically. I did art at high school, which was sort of 11 to 16 years old, but then fell out of love with it academically a bit. So I didn't do it at university or college. I did zoology instead, if you can believe it, because I wanted to waste 30 grand on something. And so I did that. And then sort of whilst I was at university, I would be constantly drawing and not listening to the zoology lectures and drawing my friends and the lecturers and everything. And I started publishing in British magazines, cartoons in British magazines then, and it just kind of went from there, really. So yeah, my entire life is the truth. It's really the smallest grain of my identity is drawing.
But how, and can you remember also how your style how you got your style of drawing? Because it's not minimalist, but it's quite simple, let's say.
Yeah, my style has been I think probably a constant evolution, and I think it probably still is changing. Yeah, it took me a long time to find it. I started off pretty much just ripping off my heroes, like it happens quite a lot, copying Bill Watson and Calvin Hobbes, and I would draw like him and with the dot eyes and everything, and eventually sort of my eyes just got bigger and bigger and bigger until they're taking over the whole page at this point. But yeah, it's that thing of you shouldn't sort of copy your heroes. You should seek what they are, what they sought. You know, the reason that you like them is because they were entirely themselves, and it takes you a long time to work out that you need to be yourself for people to enjoy your work. So yeah, it started out a lot more fussy, and I've gradually sort of stripped it away until it's something that I think isn't distracting, but I can still enjoy the drawing process of it because I love working out people's postures and how that tells the reader emotionally how they're feeling, and changing minute little differences in their eyes to get the right emotional reaction. It's just a long process that you work through.
And you didn't start by comic or graphic novel. You started with cartoons and like in a press cartoons. So why that choice?
I'm not. It just sort of fit the way my brain works. My head is constantly come up with these mad little scenarios and funny things in my head, and I've somehow managed to convince people that's a career and not a mental illness that I have, and managed to make my family not be ashamed of me because of it. So yeah, it just you find a medium that fits how you naturally do it. I think you sort of work your way in, and yeah, that's why.
And in terms of writing and drawing, is it like now that you've done a 300-page graphic novel, is it hard to convey like emotions or a story in a single drawing?
Oh, I see what you mean. Going back to yes, it is. It was. It's a difficult. They feel like different muscles. The two things. The New York cartoons and the graphic novel. When I was working on the single panel drawings, I used to crave a bit more freedom on the page and a bit more space and a bit more time for the narrative arc. And I got that with Autour de Au-Dedans because I could take my time with jokes and literally have more space on the page to fill. And that was very liberating. And it felt like that was the freeing thing to do. But then when I went back to doing New Yorker cartoons, the single panel stuff, I realized, oh no, this is the free thing. I can draw about sex and pigeons and nobody cares. So it was, I don't know, each one sort of gives me a rest from the other in a way. One has sort of gives me all this license and freedom, and the other lets me sort of turn my brain off a little bit and just be an idiot, which is who I am naturally.
So is it how do you manage the balance also when you do a single panel drawing between like what you are drawing to show and what you're also the text, because you have to really manage to be like the most go straight to the point.
I think we call it brevity in England, sort of succinct. It's not many people know that it's almost entirely writing, the process. I would say it's sort of 80-90% me scribbling in a notepad for a whole week, coming up with ideas, and then just 10% at the end is the drawing. That's like a fun little treat for me at the end of the whole process. So mostly it's writing and just going insane and drinking too much coffee and trying to come up with ideas.
Are you doing this on a daily basis?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's the way it works at the magazine is the cartoonists send 8 ideas a week, pretty much 10 ideas a week, and then they submit them as rough ideas, and then the magazine will go, I'll take that one, and you do that one up as a final drawing. But yeah, so the whole week is me sort of coming up with those 8 ideas and then doing the final one. But obviously when the graphic novel came out, that has to go like on the back burner a little bit because it just takes so much energy. Yeah.
And how do you where do you take your inspiration?
For the graphic novel?
I'm still on the cartoonist part.
Oh God, everywhere is the truth. Like everything around me, how I'm feeling. What if I've been on a date that week? I'll sort of mine that for content. It's bad. It's there's a lot of me in the cartoons, even if they're sort of hidden below a couple of layers, and it's a rat saying it instead of me. But it's it's all my experiences really. I'll how it usually works is I'll find an area that I think is funny or could be funny. I don't know, a scarecrow or whatever, and then I write around that area to try and find the best joke, and that's usually informed by my real life at that point.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's switch a little bit about in.
Sure.
Let's go in.
Into in.
Let's dive in.
Which
in.
is out, ironically.
We can play with what said us for quite a long time if we go that way. But can you tell us a little bit about the secret origins of this project?
Well, I'd always been fascinated by the nature of conversations, the sort of mechanics of conversations, and how these combinations of letters and words can change a conversation from what feels like a performance and two people surface level performing for each other into this genuine sort of transcendent connection. And that had always been in my head, and it's sort of floating around and trying to think about it a lot. And then one day, a lady who went on to be my agent, Heather, emailed me and just said, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I lied and said yes, I hadn't at all. I was thinking about pigeons. And
well, we get on to that.
And so I ran out and bought a notepad and literally wrote book ideas at the top and started writing ideas. And that idea that I was talking about, the sort of conversations, was the first on the list. And Heather said, "Do that one. That's the best one." And so then I really dived into it, and it felt like a rich enough idea to build a world around. And it started from that. I would find myself, still do find myself, in these conversations where I feel myself saying things that I don't care about or even mean to people, just to get through the conversation unscathed, so that I can go home and watch porn or whatever. But just to like get through the conversation, have it end. And when I feel that the person that I'm talking to is doing that as well, it makes me want to scream. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this strange performance for each other? Like, we're stood in front. Why can't we just say things that we mean to each other? And
so you're speaking about small talk?
Yeah. Or just, I don't know.
Or just not caring really about what the other people are saying, and not even caring about what you're going to say.
Exactly. Yeah. Just saying words just to get through the moment. And it's almost like a frustration that we can't connect in the way that I want us to. There's a wall there between us, and that's the fundamental story about In is that it's breaking through that wall and having these, like I say, conversations that feel transcendent in their intimacy.
Okay, so it was like a personal issue that you wanted to examine on the paper.
Yeah, I think so. That's how it started. But then I sort of realized that this is happening in society all over the place, and people aren't vulnerable around each other or authentic with each other a lot of the time.
Is it something that happens? I don't know if it's also maybe something like a cultural thing, you know?
Yeah, totally. I imagine, coming from England doesn't help. The French people are probably a bit more open and, I don't know, emotional with each other. Yeah, we're British people have a stick up our ass.
Okay, so how do you come from the idea, like I want to speak about people not really speaking to each other, to a 300 graphic novel?
Oh, that's...
I guess there are some steps in the between,
but like it mostly just feels like a blur of sort of panic attacks and coffee, and then at the end of it, a book came out. That's what it feels like. No, me and my editors from there sort of worked on a plot line and a dialogue and whether we thought the story should go, and we examined all the different parts of a person's life where they would have those conversations. So in love, and with their family, and with their friends, and with strangers like the plumber in the book, and with grief, and the mechanism of the story seemed to fit in all these different parts of life, and so it felt like a natural way to write the story.
Can you tell me a little bit about the creation of Nick?
Yeah, as a character.
Yeah.
He's initially, and I think this is my first book, so a lot of it was me just doing whatever felt right in the moment, honestly. And it's difficult for me to analyze it looking back, because it just feels like a manic guy making all these decisions, and it feels a bit disingenuous to analyze it. But I think when people start a lot of books, the character is entirely them. The main character is entirely them, and that's how Nick was for me initially. But then as you write the story and as you're trying to find the best way to tell the story, he sort of moves away from you a little bit in terms of how like you he is. And so that's how it was initially. He's an illustrator in the book. I'm a cartoonist, obviously. And he was frustrated by this idea that artists and illustrators and people generally, observers, they are naturally on the outside of things looking in. That's how they live their life. They observe. And so they're, by definition, not involved in the thing that's happening. They're outside looking at it. And that's the sort of basis of his character, really. He can't access people because he's watching them. And that was very like me initially. But then I think Nick moves away from me in terms of my personality. He's desperate for it, and he isn't good at talking to people. And I think if I can brag a little bit better at that. And I'm not as, I don't want to be mean to Nick, but I'm not as pathetic as Nick, I don't think. It's, his trajectory is different than mine. He goes from a classic sort of state of depression where he feels nothing and pretends. He isn't sad. I don't think depression is being sad. I think it's feeling nothing. Yeah. And Nick feels nothing and pretends that he does. And then by the end of the book, he feels everything. And I wanted that natural journey. And that's Nick.
And is it really hard to, when you have your main character, to build all the other characters around? How do you choose them?
That's interesting. I don't remember consciously trying to build them around Nick. I just wanted fascinating characters who stood on their own. It's interesting. The other main character is Ren in the book, and talking about me being like Nick, I actually think I'm more like Ren naturally. There's each of the characters have their own mechanism for hiding their true self, for obscuring themselves. Nick, like I say, is this tendency to observe. His mom, Hannah, has been defined by her motherhood, and so that hides her true self. And Ren hides her true self with humor. She deflects that way, and I think I'm much more like that. So yeah, it was a process of trying to find all the different ways that people hide themselves, and instilling that in each of the characters in a different way.
How do you define also like a character trait? I mean, behavior, like the Nick's behavior, and our Ren's. Is it something that just come naturally when writing them, or do you have to like define these specific traits before writing the scenes?
I did a couple of most of it was just instinct, honestly. But I did a couple of things where I would sort of build music playlists that I felt suited each character. So like all the bands and the songs that they like and that fit their sort of character, and music playlists and films that I thought they would like and things like that. Just so that's a very sort of visceral way to emotionally define a person, I think. And so I did that. But then it was just all sort of just organically trying to get to know the character myself, and then right.
You speak a lot. You make fun also of a lot of things. You make fun of coffee shops. You make fun of self-proclaimed feminist man.
Yeah.
So this is also maybe to make quite a statement about how we behave also today.
Yeah. Nick is,
or maybe you just have something against coffee shops. I don't know.
I don't. I think that's another of the few ways that the book is autobiographical, is that I'm very self-deprecating in my humor, and I love those coffee shops. So it feels like I'm being self-deprecating in mocking them, in satirizing them. I actually like going to them. But yeah.
So that's because it's too expensive. And so you're spending too much money.
Yeah, it's crippling me. I can't pay my mortgage because of those coffee shops, spending £4 a day on a coffee. No, but I know a lot about them because I'm a freelance, writer, cartoonist. And so I often work in those places and go and, I know them very, very well and have usual order. I go into a coffee shop and they go, the usual Will, and that's the other thing. So there's that. What was the other part of the question? Oh, the sort of feminist stuff. Yeah. Nick is, that wasn't me. I think I hope I am a feminist, but Nick is one of those, it's just another layer of his performance. Like, he's just trying too hard. There are people who are self-proclaimed feminists that just want to say the right things, and I think he's a good person, Nick, but he's just trying too hard. That's all it is, yeah. And Ren sees that in him and takes the piss out of him for it. Yeah.
There's a really great scenes between the characters when they are starting to really know each other, and I think the first one with the plumber is quite striking. How do you show feelings with your drawings? You went for the eyes to show them, but you could have done it in maybe other ways. So why did you choose the eyes?
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, the sort of eyes have become my my calling card, my sort of the thing that people know my drawings by, and so it felt like that was the obvious pathway to show the emotional change. That, and I just felt like, we were in a world where we both have the entire backlog of everything that humankind has ever learnt in a phone in our hands, and it sort of distracts us from having actual conversations with people where we can look into each other's eyes. And I wanted that to be the thing. If you're going to have a connection with people, it has to be face to face. And the first time that happens with Nick is with the plumber, and that's the moment where the book changes, really. And so we go from black and white to color in that moment, and that's the.
And I wanted to speak about the color scenes, and which also I don't know if it's digital painting or how did you do it?
No, it's mostly all hand drawn. Yeah, there's a bit of sort of moving around digitally for editing purposes, but yeah, it's mostly all hand drawn.
And is it hard to convey the ideas because if we are switching to their inner world, and it's sometimes really with a very absurd? How do you manage to get an idea, or even how do you make the reader understand what's going on?
I don't know if I have. I'm not sure if they do understand. Maybe they do. I don't know. Yeah, the truth is that I've always been much more comfortable explaining or illustrating complex emotional ideas visually without words. And so in those very intimate, complex moments, I wanted to just go entirely visual, no words at all, and leave it open to interpretation. And have it bizarre and surreal and sometimes scary, but colorful and vibrant at the same time. Because honestly, that's how those moments of connection feel to me. And you'll notice when you read the book that when that happens, the drawings break out of the panels in those moments, and it's more free and lucid. And that's Nick breaking out of these tracks of conversations that he's been stuck in for so long. But yeah, the content in them, I'm reluctant to sort of explain it to people because I want them to think about it. I did, like you say, some weird stuff happens in those color sequences. And I want people to wonder about it. I did a long time ago. I did this cartoon for the New Yorker that was a couple looking at a piece of abstract art in a gallery, and there's a sort of a mansplainy guy stood behind a girl, and the girl is telling the guy, "I said I wonder what it means, not tell me what it means." And what I was trying to say is like, I like wondering about stuff, and I don't want to be told the answers or given the answers. And when people see those color sequences, I want them to wonder about it and think about what it means and have their own interpretation. And yeah, they mean very specific things to me, but I want people to wonder. Yeah.
So once Nick has managed to really connect with someone, he tries to reproduce it with his nephew, with Ben, with his mom. Is it something also that you like? Maybe you have been through, like trying to really connect with people and like an addict.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like it's a drug that I'm chasing. Yes, I have, with embarrassing consequences. Yeah, what I should say is that I haven't mastered any of this. Like I don't know always how to get those connections with people. It's not me preaching to people, this is how you do it. It's more of an illustration of showing this is how it feels when it does happen. But yeah, it's had to have a lot of very awkward conversations with family members where I'm suddenly trying to be emotional and intimate with people that I haven't been for my whole life. But it's in a strange way, the book has opened the door for that for me, because a lot of people, particularly in my family, read the book before they knew I felt this way. And so after the book's come out, they are now more willing to talk to me more personally and intimately, and be more vulnerable around me. So it's done half of the work for me.
And do you know if there's a recipe to connect? I would say that just, if you just say, how are you?
How are you? Yeah. To engage with the person.
But how really how are you?
But honestly, how are you? Yeah, it's funny. I have people doing that to me after they've read the book. They come up to me and go, "How are you doing?" And I go, "I'm all right." Yeah. And they go, "No, but really." And sometimes I don't want it. Sometimes I just want to be left alone. But anyway, yeah, I would say, well, one of the messages of the book is that it's a different technique for every person that you're speaking to. So the basis of that is listening to the person. And I think one of the biggest parts of the book is that when Nick, no spoilers, I don't know if
there's going to be spoilers.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
right.
Actually, yeah.
When Nick connects with Ren in the book, the whole way that it happens is that he shuts up, he turns off his brain, and he listens to her. And I think that's the best way to approach it.
You really had a total freedom, I think, on the pages, and there's one of the best sex scene I've ever read in a comic book form. This is great. No, this is really a genius idea when you say it. It's great. It's great because it's what happens, but it doesn't have to be serious or even erotic. It's still funny because we are in the funny part of the book. How did you come with that page?
Yeah.
You can't say it's just instinct.
Oh, well.
You're not that talented.
How did I come up with that part? I think, yeah. I know the initial thought was that I was concerned that people would think that the connection sequences meant physical intimacy, so sex. I thought that if people were people would confuse those genuine connections with having sex
and try to have sex with everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I needed to show a sex scene that wasn't that. You know what I mean? To show that he hadn't connected with her, but it's still very physically close. And I'm a guy who's been on a lot of first dates with people, and I know that strange dance that you do around this person where it all feels like a performance and it all feels like you're on a stage doing this thing. And they sort of are half arguing over who pays the bill, and as if you're performing for an audience that isn't actually there. So it felt like a natural sort of step to turn that into that whole page that you're talking about, where they're essentially on a stage having this date, and that Nick is wrestling with an enormous condom to try and put it on. And then the curtain closes, and they're back again. But that's how it all came about. That.
Did you have like some discussion with your editor about the length and how you did have to manage the pacing of your book, and what kind of how much space you could take for one sequence or one another?
Yeah, very much so. I really struggled with that, is the truth. My editors at the time told me that it was going too fast. That for the reader, this will be done in 30 minutes if you're not careful. You could read the whole thing, and there's a weird discrepancy between how long it takes you to draw a panel, how long it takes me to draw a panel on the page, and how long it takes a reader to read that panel. And the difference is a day in the case of the date sequence versus 20 seconds for the reader. And so when you're working on it, it feels like this is going so slowly and this will take people forever to read. But in reality, it takes them no time at all. And so, we had to work a lot on pacing. And that's why later on in the book, or throughout, but mostly later on, you see pages with just single panels in them and a lot of white space. And it's because in those key moments, I wanted people to slow down and just really take their time to look at a single panel, and so that they weren't rushing through everything. And so it's a similar idea with a lot of the coffee shops and the details in the background. I wanted people to slow down and breathe and look at all the details and really immerse themselves in it a bit more.
And do you prefer when you're taking your time, or do you prefer like shorter scenes? And do you like to unpack things on a lot of pages, or is it easier for you to just go straight into a 9-panel page?
No, I like taking my time and doing the long, slow things, because I've come from, obviously, again, the New Yorker cartoon world, where it's so quick, and I do one little joke, you get in, you get out, and then it's all quick. And taking my time with those scenes was really enjoyable for me.
And also, I guess that's with what you're saying, like. I don't mean but when you're used to do just single panel drawings, that the fact that you have a whole page or even a lot of pages drives you to invent different ways of just pacing your story, like not going for a 9-grid panel page at each time, but to really experiment.
Yeah.
Was it like that for you?
Yeah.
Like, I can do anything.
Yeah, that's how it felt. I guess I've got all these pages to fill. It felt incredibly liberating in that sense. And but like I say, because it was my first one, I don't really know the rules about how to make a graphic novel, so I just did whatever I wanted. And
you didn't read other graphic novels just to try to examine how it's done?
I did, but when I was making it, I stopped because I was scared that I would copy them or put something in that shouldn't be there. I'd read Liana Fink is one of my favorite cartoonists, and she experiments with narrative a lot. And how she starts a story and then stops and then goes back and restarts the story, and I would worry that I would read one of those books and go, oh, I should be doing that. I should be putting in there and putting things into my book that shouldn't be there. So when I was working on it, I just stopped and didn't read any of those books and just tried to do what felt right to me.
Okay, so let's switch to the not funny part of the book. There's so we're into spoiler territory. So there's a third act, when Nick connects with his mother, and then so there's really a grave shift of tone of the book. Why did you go for something that hard? Can't you let people be happy?
I'm afraid not. No, you must be sad around me. Why did I? A lot of reasons. I've always found that is the best art, the art that makes you laugh and cry. So that's the holy grail for me, and I've always chased that. It's the art that I enjoy most.
So you're more visceral guy, more than cerebral guy.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm all I care about is trying to evoke an emotion in the reader. That's it. However I get there. But that's also just the stuff the work that I grew up with. You know, Calvin Hobbes is very sentimental and like touching, and there's pathos there, and as well as being funny, and those two have always gone together with me. But it's specifically in terms of the storyline, I'd had this idea about discovering the worlds within people, and almost immediately the next thing that I thought was, oh, one of those worlds has to be lost or threatened. And yeah, in that moment, I realized that's exactly how I feel about the people that I've lost in my life, the people that have died in my life, is that there was this whole world that I had the chance to explore and I didn't, and it's too late now and it's gone. And I was in the shower at the time, and I remember like standing up from the floor of the shower because I'd broken down in the shower. And I thought, okay, I need to write about that now because I can do it authentically and do it in a way that I can put my actual grief into this book. And so, yeah, I'm sorry. It's in that, and I should say that I did most of the book during the pandemic in the UK during lockdown, and I was in my flat on my own in Scotland, and so it just got sadder and sadder and sadder and sadder. I really wallowed in it a little bit, but yeah. That's right.
I don't want to go maybe not too deep in your personal history, but I lived through what Nick's has been done, and it really felt like so it was really hard to read, but it really felt like you were telling the story of someone that went through it, because so the meeting with the doctors, with the discussion with the sister, and so there is I don't know, but I think really like the hardest part of the book is like the silent pages, when you know that life's going through, and you see also that the mother is decaying, I guess. So how do you how do you kind of construct this kind of sequence, which is so heartbreaking, like really?
I'm sorry and thank you, man. That's really nice to touch into.
I'm really trying so hard not to cry right now.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot, honestly. People who have been through a similar thing have always messaged me about that and say that it helped them. It was cathartic for them to see somebody else doing it. Yeah, I've been through it as well, and I know how it feels. And I don't know what in those moments. I'm sorry to be able to keep talking about acting on instinct, but I don't know what helped me make those decisions. It was very raw, and I was just that part of the book is me just like bleeding onto the page. And like I say again, it's when I can't find the words to articulate something. You see it in the book. I always just go completely visual, and there's no text or dialogue at all. Like there's a bit in that section in the doctors where Nick's sister Anne is chatting nonstop about surgeries and procedures and everything, and she just doesn't stop talking, because that's how a lot of people deal with grief. And then there's a silent panel immediately after that where Nick just puts his hand on his mum's leg, and what you're seeing in those moments is me just like, I don't know how to talk about this, and so I'm just going to draw it. But yeah, that's it.
It's really shows also like a personal experience can be so so many people can relate to it, and I guess also this book is kind of really an object of connection for others. Is how you thought about it?
That I wanted people to connect with the book.
Yeah.
Oh wow, no, I didn't think about that.
No?
In the way that they do. You mean in the way that the characters connect with each other?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. That's nice to hear. I hope that people would like it, but obviously, yeah, that's a nice thought that people would connect with the book, like the characters connect with each other.
And how do you also, because we're ending with something that is sad, like basically, but you're still trying to go on a brighter note with the last sequence, I guess, because you didn't want to finish just on the on the words of regrets of Nick, that would be really hard to finish on that note.
It would have been, yeah. But that's, like I say, light and dark. That's been my whole life. I go from humor to sadness to humor to sadness. And so, yeah, so how all my favorite work ends with a happy note, a bittersweet moment that bookends the sadness. Whenever I've been genuinely sad, it's always been humor that's got me out of it. That's just the currency of how I grew up. We go from crying to laughing to crying to laughing, and yeah, that's me in there.
Is it hard to build an ending?
Is it
hard to build an ending? When do you say so? We have to finish.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of debate about that with my editors about where we should draw this, and yeah, there was a version in my head where we just see the whole relationship with Nick and Ren. And whereas in the book, it kind of ends at the start of the relationship. Really, you never really know what they go on to make. But yeah, it felt like the book ends with a what I would call a revelation with Nick, in that he finds his mum's world in his own world, and that felt like a nice sort of encapsulation about loss. You know, you although somebody's world is gone, you never truly lose it because of the relationship that you had with them earlier. And yeah, it's mostly you think, I can't do better than that. We'll end it there.
How do you feel when when you're drawing the last page, then it's finished? Is it a relief? Are you anxious about how people would perceive it?
I know I wasn't anxious about how people would perceive it. Until much later on, when it came out, I got real nervous. But in that moment, I don't think it was a relief. I really enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of work. It was hard work, but I felt really great whilst I was doing the actual work. And so, if for a little while afterwards, I felt a bit lost. Actually, like I had this thing that I was working on and pointing towards for ages, and then for a few months, I was like, sort of, don't know what to do now. You know what I mean? The go back to the cartoons felt a bit like unfulfilling a little bit. And so I'm fine now.
Do you think the stakes are higher maybe with this kind of graphic novel compared to your cartoons? Because I get the aim of the cartoons is to make people laugh. Mm-hmm. So you said that you want to convey emotions, but maybe with this kind of story, you want something like do you think that this kind of book can change people's lives?
Oh God, I don't know. I hope so. That would be wonderful if it did. Yeah, the stakes are definitely higher, of course. Emotionally, because you've put so much of yourself in there and you're just exposing yourself to everybody. But also, you know, there's practical, boring things like a publisher has given you a deadline, you've got to make it. Otherwise, then you're in big trouble, and, you know, there's money at stake and all that sort of stuff. Whereas, yeah, the New York cartoons, nobody gives a shit if I draw a pigeon.
So we're going back to pigeon.
We always do at some point, yeah.
So when is going to be your next graphic novel about pigeons?
Oh wow, yeah, it's coming out soon. Drawn with my feet.
No, but really, do you have any other projects? Because it was like you published it in like almost 3 years ago. It was in 2021.
That's right, 21. Yeah.
So what have you been working secretly on another great book?
Okay, man, you sound like my agent. Yes, I'm working on one. It's all very it's too vague for me to tell anybody about or announce it in any way. But yeah, I'm working on another thing.
All right, so we're going to be looking forward to this.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Will, for being with us and having this discussion on Autour de Au-Dedans, which is so out at 404 Comics. I don't know how to say it how would you pronounce it?
In French, cats on cats.
No, but in your would you say 404 comics?
404.
404 comics.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Will.
Thank you very much.